morning lights of Good Morning America glowed soft and inviting as Meryl Streep took her seat beside George Stephanopoulos, all smiles and poised elegance. The audience applauded enthusiastically, expecting a warm interview about her latest cinematic venture or her charitable work. But the cheerful rhythm shifted in an instant. Stephanopoulos, with a practiced pivot, steered the conversation toward politics specifically, a controversial public comment Meryl had made earlier that had gone viral. Her expression tightened, the warmth in her eyes replaced by steely resolve. She took a breath and met his gaze. "I came to discuss art, not politics," she said quietly, voice strong beneath the calm. Stephanopoulos pressed on, mentioning public backlash and calling her tone deaf, and Meryl's calm cracked. Without raising her voice, she unclipped her mic, stood gracefully, and said, "I won't debate here." Then she walked off, the settle leaving behind a stunned silence, a gasping audience, and a live broadcast abruptly cut to commercial. Backstage. Murmurs buzzed like static as producers scrambled to regain control. Meryl's exit sent shockwaves through the production. Some in awe of her principled stance, others in disbelief at the spectacle. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Within minutes, #MerylWalks trended globally, fans and critics alike weighing in on what had just unfolded on live television. George Stephanopoulos, visibly shaken but trying to remain composed, returned from the commercial break alone. "We apologize for the unexpected interruption," he stated, his tone professional but clearly rattled. He avoided direct commentary, knowing the footage would speak louder than any scripted apology. Meryl, now in a black SUV, speeding away from the studio, stared out the window, unshaken. She knew she hadn't just left a talk show, she'd made a statement. And the world, whether ready or not, was already listening. As the day unfolded. Media outlets dissected the confrontation with relentless fervor. Cable news loops replayed the clip of Meryl's quiet defiance, some praising her for standing her ground against sensationalism, while others criticized her for walking out of a scheduled interview. Talk shows debated whether Stephanopoulos had crossed a line or if Meryl had overreacted. Meanwhile, the internet turned her walk-off into a symbol, one of artistic integrity versus political provocation. Fans rallied behind her, sharing quotes and past moments where she had used her voice for change, while critics questioned her avoidance of accountability. But Meryl, unfazed by the noise, remained silent for the rest of the day, issuing only a short statement through her publicist. "When a conversation becomes a performance, silence is my response." That single line fueled even more debate, but for Meryl, the matter was closed. She had said everything she needed without raising her voice. By the next morning, the fallout had fully matured into a media firestorm. Major publications ran bold, headlines framing the clash as everything from a publicity stunt to a cultural reckoning. Panelists on morning shows scrutinized every second of the exchange, Meryl's body language, George's tone, the producer's slow cut to commercial. Satirical late-night hosts joked about it, while op-eds debated its deeper implications for journalism, celebrity activism, and public discourse. Inside ABC, tension simmered. Some executives defended George, citing journalistic duty, while others privately admitted the interview had gone too far. Meanwhile, Meryl's allies in the entertainment industry rallied to her side, sharing stories of her integrity, her candor, and her refusal to compromise on values for viewership. Offers for exclusive interviews flooded her team. All declined. Meryl stayed out of sight, her absence making an even louder statement. She wasn't playing the game, and in doing so, she changed the rules. In the weeks that followed, the incident became a case study in how a single moment can reshape narratives. Journalism schools dissected the exchange for lessons on ethics and tone. Public relations firms used it as a blueprint for how to manage or harness viral controversy. And while George Stephanopoulos returned to his anchor chair with measured grace, there was an unspoken shift in how interviews were approached on the show. Guests appeared warier, producers more cautious. Meryl, however, emerged with her legacy not only intact but invigorated. Without granting a single follow-up, she became a quiet icon of resistance. her walk-off reframed as both protest and proclamation. A viral clip of her final words, "When truth becomes theater, I bow out," trended for weeks, etched into memes, murals, and even protest signs. It was never just about an interview. It was about principal land Meryl Streep. True to form, let her silence do the talking. Asterisk, months later, Meryl's unexpected reappearance at a film festival reignited the conversation, but not in the way anyone predicted. The poise and a quiet smile, she addressed a packed theater before a screening of a new independent film she had executive produced. When asked about the Good Morning America incident, she replied only, "That chapter served its purpose. Now, let's write better ones." The room erupted in applause, not for drama, but for dignity. George Stephanopoulos, for his part, remained composed in the public eye, but sources close to the show admitted morale had shifted. Guest bookings were more carefully curated, editorial meetings were tenser, and yet viewership had soared in. The weeks after the clash proof that controversy sells, even as it divides. In the end, the moment became more than a viral story. It was a cultural turning point. Meryl's refusal to play along, to be baited or boxed in, stood as a powerful rejection of spectacle in favor of substance. And while television marched on, it did so under a new, watchful lens. Asterisk, behind closed doors, executives at the network wrestled with the fallout. Sponsors had taken note. Social media analysts tracked shifting sentiment, and publicists from both camps issued careful statements designed to quell the noise without surrendering ground. Meryl Streep's camp leaned into grace and artistic integrity, subtly framing the moment as a stand against sensationalism. Meanwhile, Good Morning America opted for strategic silence, allowing public interest to fizzle without stoking further flames. But among viewers, the incident sparked deeper conversations about the treatment of women in media, especially those who dared to challenge hosts or reframe narratives. Some called it a meltdown, others a masterclass in self-respect. Either way, it changed how audiences watched the morning show and how stars prepared for it. Meryl, ever unshaken, declined future interview requests from the network, quietly reinforcing her boundary. George Stephanopoulos, though rarely one to admit missteps publicly, appeared noticeably more measured in subsequent interviews, as though aware the world had seen something Rand hadn't looked away. Asterisk, in the weeks that followed, ripple effects of the clash echoed beyond television. Late-night hosts spun punchlines out of the encounter. Internet memes circulated, and think pieces dissected every facial expression and clipped response. Meryl Streep, true to form, refused to capitalize on the drama. She returned to the stage. In a celebrated Broadway revival, commanding ovations not for controversy, but for craft. Meanwhile, George Stephanopoulos maintained his anchor seat. But insiders noted subtle shifts in production dynamics: vetting, lighter tones, fewer hard-edged interviews with outspoken figures. While no one in either camp spoke of the incident directly again, it lingered like a fault line, silent, invisible, but known. To many, the moment symbolized more than a clash of personalities. It reflected the cultural tension between authenticity and control, between legacy and format. And though time moved on, one truth remained. Live television, no matter how scripted, always carries the risk of revealing something real. Asterisk, public fascination didn't wane, it only evolved. Fan forums debated the underlying meaning of Meryl's final words on set, dissecting whether her walkout was a spontaneous act or a calculated stand. Theories ranged from political statements to subtle career pivots, with some arguing she was drawing attention to systemic media bias or the performative nature of daytime television. Meanwhile, ratings for Good Morning America spiked temporarily, driven by curiosity, but executives quickly recognized that the bump came at the cost of journalistic credibility. Quiet conversations were held in boardrooms about how to preserve the show's image without sacrificing relevance. As for Streep, her team issued no press releases, but her next project, gritty, independent drama tackling media manipulation, spoke volumes. She let her artistry, not the controversy, carry the narrative forward. Yet for viewers who witnessed the moment that morning exchange became a marker in pop culture, when civility cracked and two icons collided, not just in disagreement, but in the raw tension of unscripted truth. Asterisk. In the aftermath, neither party offered a full recounting, leaving room for myth to overtake memory. Meryl Streep retreated from public interviews, her silence only amplifying intrigue. George Stephanopoulos maintained his polished professionalism. On air, though a noticeable tension lingered in his delivery for days following the clash. Clips of the incident continued circulating, fueling analysis videos and think pieces. Late-night comedians seized on the drama, with satirical sketches imagining fictional rematch interviews. Behind the scenes, producers reviewed new guidelines for handling A-list guests, subtly shifting the tone of future segments to avoid similar eruptions. Yet in cultural memory, the clash lived on not for its spectacle, but for its rare, unscripted humanity. It reminded audiences that beneath the celebrity and the staging, there remains something unpredictable, something real when ego, opinion, and raw emotion find themselves live before millions. Asterisk. As weeks passed, the moment took on a life of its own. Memes flooded social media, late-night hosts parodied the clash, and pundits dissected every glance, pause, and tone. While Meryl Streep stayed publicly silent, sources close to her hinted that she felt blindsided by what she perceived as a condescending line of questioning. Meanwhile, ABC insiders claimed that producers were stunned by how quickly the segment spiraled out of control, describing the atmosphere afterward as tense and surreal. Despite the media frenzy, both Streep and Stephanopoulos resumed their routines, but audiences sensed a shift. The facade of smooth celebrity journalism had cracked, revealing a glimpse of raw, unfiltered confrontation. And in that rupture, viewers saw not just a disagreement, but two powerful figures standing unflinchingly for their beliefs live, uncensored and unforgettable. Asterisk. In the aftermath, ABC quietly edited the segment for rebroadcast, cutting some of the sharper exchanges, but the internet had already immortalized the uncut version. Think pieces, op-eds, and reaction videos exploded across platforms, with viewers split between admiration for Meryl Streep's poise and frustration over George Stephanopoulos' tone. Some accused the host of ambushing a beloved actress, praised him for holding public figures accountable. Yet amidst the uproar, neither party issued a formal apology. Instead, they let the moment stand raw, unresolved, and brimming with subtext. For many, it became more than a talk show spat. It was a flashpoint in the broader conversation about media power and civility in an increasingly polarized landscape. Asterisk. Behind closed doors, sources hinted that producers had urgently reviewed the interview protocols following the incident, aiming to prevent future on-air confrontations of such intensity. Still, many believed that moment of unfiltered friction was precisely what audiences had been craving: authenticity over polished performances. For Meryl, though, the clash marked a rare deviation from her usually composed public persona. And though she remained silent in the press, her absence from future morning show appearances spoke volumes. George, meanwhile, seemed unshaken on the surface, but subtly adjusted his approach in subsequent interviews, perhaps recognizing the fine line between probing and provocation. Whether the episode served as a cautionary tale or a call for more transparency, one thing was clear: the morning TV landscape had shifted. Neither host nor guest would emerge unchanged. Asterisk. The ripple effects extended beyond just George and Meryl. Fellow celebrities began to reconsider their participation in live television interviews, wary of unpredictable hosts and viral fallout. PR teams scrambled to recalibrate talking points and risk assessments, while rival networks subtly mocked the incident in veiled monologues and cheeky social media posts. Meanwhile, fan forums turned the confrontation into a cultural litmus test. Was Meryl unfairly targeted, or did she bravely confront a line of questioning that overstepped? Even days later, the moment was dissected with forensic detail, as if it were a scene from one of her Oscar-winning performances. But this wasn't scripted. This was two seasoned professionals caught in a moment of unexpected honesty, awkward, uncomfortable, and deeply human. Asterisk by the end of the week. The buzz surrounding Meryl Streep's dramatic exit had transcended entertainment. Circles, sparking debates on morning radio, news panels, and even classrooms discussing media ethics. While ABC refrained from officially addressing the altercation, insiders hinted at behind-the-scenes tensions and a growing rift between producers, eager for viral moments and guests seeking respectful engagement. Meryl, as always, remained above. The noise spotted days later at a charity gala, composed and radiant, declining to comment but letting her graceful silence say everything. For viewers, the clash served as a rare, unscripted window into the friction between authenticity and performance. It wasn't just a talk show gone wrong, it was a cultural moment, captured live, forever etched into the modern media canon. Asterisk.